Hello, everyone. Welcome to Healing the Spirit. I'm so excited you're here. This episode is slightly different than the usual episodes. Tomorrow, I'm going to be sharing the contemplations for the astrology and the energy of October 2024. And I also, before I jump into this episode, I want to let you all know that doors to Shapeshifting Academy is going to close on Thursday, October 3rd. We are going to begin the journey. And so if you've been thinking about it, I encourage you to sign up and join us now. And if you would like more information, you can check out the course page. You can check out the podcast episode I recorded on it, or you can also join the mailing list to hear more about it. Okay, so in this episode, I want to talk about a phenomenon that's often referred to as the never-ending healing cycle. This is a conversation and a topic that I hear being talked a lot about in various healing circles, both from the perspective of practitioners as well as the perspective of people who receive healing work. And to me, a lot of the conversations I have been engaged with around this topic in the past has felt like it lacked a little nuance, and it didn't really get to the heart of it, which has always made me very curious. And so this is a topic that's been in the back of my mind for a while. And in the process of building and birthing Shapeshifting Academy, I feel like I've had greater access to more pieces of the puzzle. And I want to share it here with the awareness that this is not my final answer on this topic. This is just where I'm at. So, the never-ending healing cycle to me is an experience, is a phenomenon where people come into doing healing work and then get to a point where they feel like they have to find the next book, find the next teacher, find the next course that can give them, quote unquote, the answer to their problems. And what feels destabilizing, or what feels maybe even missing the point or missing the mark when we are in that never-ending healing loop or healing cycle, is the forgetting that we each have our own answers already within us. There's a way in which a lot of people come into healing work because they are experiencing some sort of challenges, right? Maybe they're moving through big changes in their relationships with other people or with themselves, or maybe they are ending a chapter in their creative work or at their job, or maybe emotions are coming up that are related to a lot of past trauma that needs to be tended to, that haven't been given the attention that they really needed. And what happens from that vantage point is people come into healing work with a level of urgency, right? This feeling of, I really need to do this work in order for me to make sense of what's happening, in order for me to be able to transform and alchemize the challenging experiences I've been moving through. And so what usually follows is a period of what I'm calling the honeymoon period for a lot of people, because they start to feel that their challenges or the difficulties they're experiencing are beginning to lighten up. Maybe they're starting to find a framework of looking at their lives that work for them. Maybe they start to find practices that help them come to a deeper relationship with themselves, that help them come to a sense of regulation, that helps them affirm aspects of who they are that they've always known but perhaps haven't had the ability or the opportunity to really confirm and affirm for themselves. So this period usually feels amazing. This is where we try to meditate every day and we journal every day, and we're just like really in that flow, right? In a lot of people's experiences, usually this period is attached to some sort of relationship with a modality, a book, a teacher, or a certain practice, right? And usually, in order for the work to actually work, there needs to be a certain level of trust, and there needs to be a certain level of baseline acceptance that the teacher or the practice or the modality or that book knows something that we don't, right? And we're learning from it. We're opening up to this new way of being because the ways that we've been before, the ways that we've interacted with our lives before just haven't really worked out for us. And it's brought us to that moment or point of pain, right? Or of suffering. And what I think is interesting is what follows from this experience, because there are a few different places that people usually go to. And I've seen this in myself. I've also seen this in the lives of people that I work with. One is there's one group of people after this honeymoon period that realized that they're okay, that they only needed a temporary fix, and now they have moved to a new chapter in their lives. They don't really need the practices anymore. Perhaps something about the practices themselves were never really, they were meant to be temporary for them, and they were meant to only show them aspects or insights about reality that they were meant to see, and then they're ready to move on. And then there's the other side or the other group that has a different experience, that has this experience of wanting to know more. I tend to think of these people as seekers. I definitely put myself in that category. I definitely see myself as a seeker. And when you are a seeker, you have this boundless curiosity for more. You want more teachings, you want more knowledge, you want to go deeper. You might even want to achieve some level of mastery in the craft. Maybe in my case, for example, I found astrology, and then I got to a point where I really want to be an astrologer. I felt that calling. And this is a precarious point for a lot of people, because when you're in that space, whether you want to deepen your relationship with the practice or the teacher or the modality or the tradition for yourself, or you want to become a practitioner who shares this work with other people, what needs to happen here is one's relationship with these practices, modalities, with these teachers, the tradition has to shift. It's non-negotiable. It has to shift. But a lot of people are not aware of this because they come into the work with a sense of urgency, with a sense of something needs to change. And so it can feel destabilizing. It can feel scary to shift from that sense of urgency, right? Maybe I remember when I first came into astrology, I felt this sense of urgency, like, tell me the answer, right? And that was great because that was what propelled me into the search for a while. But I get to a point where in order for me to get to the next level, the next spiral of my evolution, I need to actually shift that relationship because that's no longer working. If I continue with that sense of, I need this because something is wrong with me and I need to fix it, then what usually happens is at some point I will quit and I will realize that I don't actually need it, that I do have the answer, or that whatever the practice has been doing for me is now automated in my being, in the way that I walk through life, in the way that I move through my reality, that I don't need the practice anymore. But to me, this is where people get stuck in that healing loop, actually, because we either don't know how to transform that relationship with the teacher, with the modality, with the tradition into something else that's actually more sustainable, that's actually more in alignment with where we want to go and what we desire the next evolution of our lives to be. And what happens is then we get bounced out, right? We quit the practice. We don't study with the teachers anymore. We distance ourselves from everything. And then through not doing the practice, we kind of get back to square one. We get back to that point of returning to some default ways of being, default ways of seeing the world, default ways of talking to ourselves that have never been supportive to us, right? And it actually catapulted us back into where we started eventually, sooner or later. And then we start the cycle again and we think, okay, maybe astrology doesn't work for me. Maybe I need to learn the tarot, right? Or, oh, the tarot doesn't work for me. Oh, I need energy healing. Or this energy healing modality doesn't work for me. I need to find a different energy healing modality. And then that becomes the never ending healing loop. And so I think this is a really interesting phenomenon to really consider and to really contemplate, because there's a very tender moment of transition between relating to your modality, your practices, your teachers from a space of, I need you, otherwise my life will fall apart, versus relating to them from a space of, wow, these practices are so beautiful. These practices bring so much value to my life. These teachers help me access insights that I know how to access within myself, but it's just so much more fun doing it with a teacher or doing it with a community, doing it in the container of learning. And when we allow our healing work or our seeking or our spiritual journey to be something that actually we can derive pleasure from, that can make us feel more relaxed in who we already are, then everything shifted. We orient to the practices, to the modalities, to the teachers, not from a space of scarcity, essentially. From a space of, if I don't do this, everything's going to fall apart, to, wow, I get to do this. This is reminding me of something that my partner told me about Reese Witherspoon. Reese Witherspoon said something along the lines of shifting one's mindset, from I have to do this to I get to do this, and how beautiful, right? When we recognize that part of being alive, part of being a human, is we get to play with our spiritual tools, with our healing modalities. Everything becomes an exploration. Everything becomes a drive and a playground for curiosity, for deepening our relationship with ourselves, with life, with the dynamic paths that we're walking, that is always showing us new things, that is always surprising us, and that sometimes also brings us back to where we came from and gives us this really deep and rooted, rounded experience of humility. Not humility from a space of not acknowledging our power, not humility from a space of believing the lie that we don't have the answers already, but humility from a space of complete wonder that, wow, we get to do this. So I want to leave us there and keep this short and sweet, but that's something for us to really feel into when it comes to our healing work. Do we want to orient to our healing work from a space of, I need this, otherwise things are going to fall apart? Or do we want to orient to our spirituality from a space of limitless possibilities? From a space of, yeah, I already know this, but every time I am reminded of it, it is a beautiful, beautiful experience. It is a magnificent experience. All right, that's it. Thank you all. If this is resonating for you, I'm so glad. And yeah, I'd love to hear back from you. I'd love to hear how this is resonating. Leave us a review, leave us some stars, reach out to me on social media. Whatever the ways, I would really appreciate and find pleasure in hearing how this is landing for all of you. All right. Sending so much love and talk to you soon. Take care.